the seasons. We'll go through each of them. Try not to spend too long on any of them, but let's start with the world number one. It's Aryna Sabalenka. Of course, Aryna Sabalenka, best season of her career, I would argue, to date, even though she walks away with only one major title, and for some, that might be an impeachably low number as it relates to her grade. But the 27-year-old, number one all season long. She ends the year number one in both ELO rating overall as well as yearly ELO rating. Let me just run you through the numbers, DK, fast. 2025 record for Sabalenka, 59-11, second most wins. Her record at the majors, 23-3. That's ridiculous. It's the most wins. Obviously, we saw this season. 40-4. Let me say that again. 40-4 against opponents ranked outside the top 20, fourth most wins, but best win percentage. Second best win percentage. 19-7 against the top 20, most top 20 wins. She was 11-4 against the top 10, most top 10 victories. She also, of course, won 4 titles in 15 events this year. Wins the U.S. Open, Madrid, Miami. And Brisbane doesn't count as 1,000, but it should, given the strength of that field, and everyone plays it to start the season. The January 1,000, we'll call it. Most importantly, though, she also made massive finals. Australian Open, Roland Garros, Indian Wells, Stuttgart, DK. She played 15 events this season. She made the quarterfinals or further in 13 of them overall this year. If Aryna Sabalenka was playing, she was participating in championship weekend. Her best wins on the year, the Anisimova-Pegula matches in New York, to actually beat Swiatek in 3 sets and as definitively as she did in that final set in the Roland Garros semis. And then quietly, it was an 0-1 victory. But what she did to Madison Keys in that Indian Wells semifinal, where it was like, okay, I know you've been this good for 3 months, but like, enough. I'm the number one player in the world. Watch this. Like, that was your fuck you moment that I think every world number one needs to have in the course of a signature season. Second in hold percentage, 13th in break percentage. It's her 5th Tour Finals appearance, all of them consecutively. DK, as efficiently as possible, like to think I just told the 2025 Sabalenka story. What's your grade for her season?
See, I feel like if we're grading on a curve, I feel like if you win 2 or more slams in a year, that's an A+. And if you win at least 1 slam, that's probably an A, unless there's some massively mitigating factors, like you don't play the rest of the year or something crazy. So, and it is sort of like the Sabalenka conundrum, because to your point, she was probably more consistent this year than she was last year. But on the other hand, like every Sabalenka year, she has these high highs, but she also has these like unspeakably low lows, like emotional lows, even though if you were just to look at like a string of her results on a piece of paper, you would think, oh, wow, she made the final here and the final. She made back-to-back major finals in Australia and Paris. But then like you remember what actually went down in both of those finals. Obviously, Roland Garros worse than Australia, but 2 just like gut-wrenching defeats that like she certainly could have won both, like the way that she, beat Maddie a few months later in Indian Wells, and the way that she's played, Coco at other tournaments. You certainly would imagine she had a chance to really win 3 out of the 4 slams this year. So, she won Miami, she won the US Open. I think if she wins the WTA Finals and if she's in a fairly dominant fashion, I would be willing to reevaluate and give her an A+. But I think right now it's an A.
Most wins she's had in a single season. Most finals she's made in a single season. Tied for the most titles. She won 4 last year. She wins 4 this year. I mentioned this earlier, but it's the key piece to me. She wins the Tour Finals. I'm ready to call this season an A+, even with the disappointments at the majors. And yes, I know we're past this controversy as a tennis populist, but like I will say it, and I said it at the time. She was right in the press conference after that French Open final to be that angry with herself. Like, it had nothing to do with the Coco Gauff side, and that was the misinterpretation. And in the context of the immediate aftermath of a match, it's tough to make that understood unless you've been in a scenario like that before. And I like to think I've played enough tennis to understand exactly what she was feeling in that moment. She gave that major away. Like, there's just no denying it. Madison Keys was fucking awesome in the Australian Open. Like, that wasn't a bad loss. That was just 2 heavyweight fighters, and eventually someone had to be left standing. Anisimova was also awesome at Wimbledon. And, like, look at what she did the rest of the season for the context of that loss. Disappointing? Yes. Impeachable? No. She then won the U.S. Open. And, like, quietly, we didn't talk about it because she won it, and there are a lot of other cool storylines throughout, but, like, how much pressure was on her to win that U.S. Open? If she didn't win it, like, what is the storyline? What are we talking about for the last month and a half? And she went out and won the damn thing. So to be calendar start to finish number one, to take advantage of the first half, there was a lapse from Iga Swiatek. And Sabalenka said, perfect, I'll take the space provided, and I'm going to hold on to this number one ranking all year long. Like, she did the damn thing. I know some of those final losses those last losses at the majors this year stick with you. But again, if she wins this tour finals, we're talking about her and Swiatek's 22 season. Like, those are the best 2 seasons of the decade, and let's have a debate about which was better, because maybe number-wise, Swiatek has the edge, but strength of the field, 2025's field is much better than 2022's was, and so context has to matter in those sorts of things. In what we're calling a great field, she was the end-to-end calendar best player. A+, if she wins the title here, yes. For now, I'm holding with a strong 95A.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think because it was so definitive in many ways, the way that she won the US Open title, we don't really remember like the collective, I don't know. For me, there was anxiety, like this dominant number one who's thousands of points ahead of the field could very easily end this year without a slam. And that was like very, for someone who, again, who has lived through it, who's lived through the years of slamless number ones, players who hadn't won a slam in 12 months, but was still number one on the WTA rankings. And probably still would be number one now. I don't even think that if someone else had won the U.S. Open, she'd be, down at number two. Like, she just amassed so many points everywhere that it just was. I think if she'd won Roland Garros, she would have been over 12,000 ranking points. Like, it's just like an insane amount of distance between herself and the field. But the way that she was able to dust herself off and win that title against 2 really, really good opponents in the semis and the finals. I mean, that match against Anisimova was just fantastic. The way that she was able to play defense. Like, she was the 100%. Defensive player on that court and was able to just weather the storm. I mean, just a tremendous tactical, emotional growth. I feel like I say this a lot with Sabalenka. I feel like she's always hitting new milestones, and then she finds another way to put down a total emotional clunker. So I don't know what fresh hell awaits in 2026, but for this year, there was a lot of growth and a lot of progress. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how she performs at the WTA finals. Because I feel like last year, it was like a question of playing to clinch the number one ranking for the end of the year. And I think once she did that, she really did kind of take her foot off the gas. So I kind of, now that that's not something for her to play for, she could just play this tournament full out and see what happens.
I have a rule in my criteria when you're compared to Serena, Seles, Navratilova, Everett, and Graf over 6 times by Opta-Ace in a given season, like, it's no lower than an A. You're in the A range, and I mean the slam streak, all of it. Like, this is the run we're going to remember Sabalenka for. This is, as I've said before, the spot on her Wikipedia chart where it's just orange, yellow, green, purple, orange, yellow, green, purple. It's just all these slam successes stacked up. Calendar year to year number one. Remarkable season, can go that much higher, and again set up a really fun debate if she wins the tour finals. Next up on this list, the current